Well, welcome back to In the Word. Glad to be here with you. Start of a new week. Just had the opportunity last week to teach with a group of men at a local church here in Colorado. Just a blessed time. Really, really enjoyed the fellowship. Really enjoyed the interaction with the people. We were doing a seminar, two of them actually, one on the book of Colossians in the evening. And then during the day, we were doing a seminar on the Gospels and Acts. So we looked at Matthew, Mark, Luke, and the book of Acts, and it was just a wonderful time. Pray that you guys had a great week and a great weekend as well, and that you're looking forward to a good week in the Lord as we head into a brand new month. So join me then this morning as we're looking at Romans. It's morning for me. I'm not sure what time you're looking at this, but we're back in Romans, and we're looking at Romans chapter 2, verses 5 and 6. Let me read that for you. But because of your stubbornness and unrepentant heart, you are storing up wrath for yourself on the day of wrath, the day of wrath and revelation of the righteous judgment of God, who will repay each person according to his deeds. Now, if you've been following along in the series, you know that Paul is speaking to someone here who thinks that they are somehow exempt for God's judgment, from God's judgment. Remember, Paul has been in ministry for about 25 years now. He has looked at and heard the objections to the gospel, and he is in the process now of addressing those objections one at a time. And he's pretending, I think we could say, having a dialogue with, let's say, a person who is advancing these arguments against him. Now, it was common for Jews, particularly, to think that they, since they were partakers of the Abrahamic covenant and that they knew God, that they were safe from judgment, no matter what they did. And Paul puts his finger on the problem here. He's very skilled. He says they were stubbornly and unrepentantly refusing to submit to the truth. Scary situation here. They're thinking, if you go back a verse, their thinking is that since God was not bringing judgment upon them, in other words, since God was not bringing some disaster or some corrective, let's just say, to them, that they must be right, is what their thinking was. And they didn't know, it said in verse 4, that what they're experiencing is not God's approval, but rather God's restraint, God's patience. So God was restraining their judgment. Didn't mean that they were right, and they were misinterpreting the whole situation. So instead of being right, they were instead dead wrong. And their wrongness, their error was going to lead to eternal consequence. They were storing up wrath for the day of wrath, is what Paul tells them. Because of the stubbornness and unrepentant, they're storing up wrath for themselves on the day of wrath. In other words, when that day of judgment comes, and it comes to all people, comes inevitably, that what they'll be revealed is the wrath of God, not his approval. And they'll recognize at that moment that it's been God's patience that sustained them, not his approval. Verse 6 then, Paul is going to give us a principle that God uses in judgment. Each person, who God will repay each person, now this is either Jew or Gentile, according to his deeds. This is what God is saying here. We will be judged according to what he's done, according to what he has actually performed, not according to intention. So God has one standard of judgment for all people, everywhere, and all times. The standard is not, brothers and sisters, what we intend to do, what we mean to do, but what we actually do. So we need to be careful. We have a tendency in our fallenness to judge ourselves by our intention and others by their actions. And that's not right. Nothing could be more mistaken. If you were to judge yourself by the same standard that God uses to judge other people, that is by what they do, not what they intend, I wonder if in a court of justice that there would be enough evidence to identify you as a Christian. Would there be enough evidence in your actions, in your attitude, in how you live to identify yourself as one of God's chosen? Now, before you rush off and think that God is saving people by works, nothing could be further from the truth. Paul's going to make that clear as he goes on. He's not addressing whether or not works, deeds save. He's just addressing how God judges. So we will see here as we go on that Paul's going to expand on this idea. And even for Christians, for you and I, brothers and sisters, we were going to be standing before what's commonly called the bema seat of Christ, where we will be judged by what we have done, how we have used the gifts and abilities and talents he's given us, how we've used the opportunities that he's given us, and we'll be rewarded on that basis. That's the nature of the judgment that we'll face. So I pray today that as you hear these words and you meditate on them this morning, as you reflect on them throughout the day, that it's not only your internal attitudes, it's not only your internal intention that is being addressed, but also how you live, how you take that internal intention and turn it outward to the world around you. Next time we'll be talking about what this means and how this fits into a gospel of grace. But for now, let's just stop here and meditate on the Lord, who on the day of judgment will pay each person according to his deeds. God bless you, brothers and sisters. Have a great Monday and a great week. And be careful. Tomorrow's April Fool's Day. Don't get caught. God bless you.